Welcome to PitchMeNot, a podcast that takes you through the first pitch meeting a startup founder has with a VC. But it doesn't stop there. Stay tuned as a VC dissect the startup in a candid debrief once the founder leaves the room. I'm your host Rahul, and today I'm joined by Saurabh Gunwant, Senior Associate at Atex Ventures, a deep tech VC firm based in Dubai, and we'll be talking to Varun Gupta, founder and CEO of Atmax, a SaaS solution that helps companies automate their sales incentive and performance management. Now let's get started. Hi, Varun. Thank you so much for joining us. And I have with me Saurabh from Atex Ventures.
Hey, thanks for calling, Rahul. Hey, Saurabh. Good to hear you, see you
Hi
as well.
Rahul, hi Varun. Good to see you guys.
So, I'd love to know more about Atmax and what you guys are doing.
Sure. So, Rahul, and we started Atmax 3 years back. It's a pure play SaaS platform helping automate the entire sales incentive and performance management for companies. So, I'll quickly share the background why we started Atmax 3 years back. So, you would know that the decade of 2000, 2010 was majorly the ERP decade, as we call it. So, everybody would want to buy a SAP or a Oracle as such. Everybody would want to, of course, automate the entire functions which are centralized, like finance, supply chain, materials, all those things. After that, once the database of the organization was done, 2010, 2020 was the decade of CRM. So once organization, the CXO say that, hey, okay, my database is done from organization perspective. What can I do for sales? Because sales happens to be the driving factor for any organization. And that's how CRMs like Zoho, Freshworks, HubSpot, Salesforce, all those companies really flourished in the decade of 2010 to 2020. Now, what you are seeing is most of the companies now are done with the CRM, which means their database for the customers is set. I would just want to extend that this decade, which is 2020, 2030, is now optimizations for the sales teams, which means the data of CRM is set. But now, if somebody is doing X as a quota or target, can that person do 120% of X? So
Yeah.
that is what is sales optimization. And this is the decade when each and every company would want to actually move to in sales optimization direction and make sure that they are doing much more than previously. A company which is $100 million company can become 110 million just by investing in a particular technology. So that is how we started Atmax 3 years back.
So Varun, how do you position yourself in the sales market?
What we do, which is sales performance management, is post sales. What is the meaning of post sales? Is let's say the sales has been closed. Now the salesperson would want to know what is the commission or incentive that individual is going to get. Imagine if you walk into any retail store for that matter, be it H&M, Uniqlo, Pantaloons for that matter. When you walk into a retail store and ask for a pair of jeans, now this particular individual is not going to upsell you a couple of t-shirts or a couple of additional shirts. The reason is there is no visibility that how much money can I earn if I upsell something. And this is something we are solving. Right now, each and every company in APAC, if we talk about 99.5% of the companies run the entire sales commission incentive performance manually on Excel sheets, which means the salespeople actually receive incentives or commission after 30, 45 days. So now the salesperson, after getting to know that, hey, my incentive is, let's say, $5,000, Singapore dollars, for example, would want to get 10,000 if he or she could do much more in a particular KPI and would know at that particular moment, hey, in next 15 days, I need to do this extra thing.
Is the lack of tool the only reason why this happens, or is there anything else to this?
So from transparency perspective, Rahul, it is basically digitization of the entire process. What happens in if I have to say that it takes 30 days to give out the incentives and commission, the reason is the sales operation or HR teams actually download the entire data from multiple systems. And for 5 or 6 people will work on these multiple Excel sheets, 15-20 Excel sheets for 15-20 days. And then finally, they will come out with a final Excel sheet on which they will put incentive schemes. So it takes entire 30 days. Now, what we are saying is, can we crunch this 30 days to 30 minutes? And that is what we are doing. And when this happens, then only real-time things will come into place. Otherwise, it will always be a 30-day kind of a lag, which will happen in the entire process. So yes, you are right. It is majorly absence of the tools which are there in the market. And this being a niche space as well. Right now, CRM, everybody would know, but sales performance management is something which people are now understanding and they want to get into it.
Yeah. So, Varun, which kind of companies or industries are you selling it to, and who are the key beneficiaries, and how are they being benefited from your solution?
Okay. So when we look at from Atmax perspective, right now we are focusing on enterprise companies. Now, enterprise would mean anybody who is having more than 250 salespeople in the organization. So especially industries like financial services, building materials, or any industry which is more B2C is where we target. So more than 250 salespeople is generally what we look at from a target group perspective. Now, when we look at the beneficiary, there are four different type of beneficiaries in the entire process. And when I talk about Atmex, we actually make sure that the entire process is managed by our system. It should not happen that 98% of the work is happening on Atmex system, whereas 2% can happen on Excel sheet. It is about money, so we cannot do like this. And the money has to actually be counted by single dollar. So we cannot even change the numbers. So 100% of the process has to run on the system. Therefore, the sales admin teams, which is the sales operation team, who define the KPIs, who define the incentive schemes, the plans and all, they have access on the system. So they can define those things. They can change on the go. It's a no code system. You can have different slabs. You can add delete slabs. You can add delete any weightages, formulas, all those things. So sales incentive teams, which are centralized team, they were doing something 30 in 30 days. Now it happens in 30 minutes. So they get benefited big time. The second stakeholder is of course the, and most importantly, the user, who is the salesperson who is interacting with the customer to get the money for the organization. Now this individual right now, it's a black box for him or her. The problem is everything is manual. So this individual does not have any access to any data saying that, hey, if I do 120% one KPI, can I earn 20% extra in my incentives? So this is a big user base which we empower as well. So there is a module which is for salespeople. They have access to real-time data. What if scenarios? What if I do this? I get this. Nudges go to this person. So right now, black box with Atmax, 25th of the month, a notification comes in saying that, hey, you are at 50% in one KPI. To achieve any incentive, the qualifier is 75%. So please put in efforts. So imagine the power we are going to give to the users. Third beneficiaries or sales managers, the supervisors to these salespeople. Currently, as I say, in a black box, they do not have any data or any view to even coach or, for that matter, nudge the salespeople in their teams. Now, the problem is if they do not nudge, the salespeople do not achieve more. If salespeople do not achieve more, the sales managers do not get more, and the company does not get more. So we give access through different module to these sales managers, so that they have the access of all the team members. Hey, what my person X is doing, person Y is doing, person ABC is doing, in what KPI last 12 months, downward slope performance. There is a need of coaching, skilling in that particular KPI. Right? Upward slope, I should recognize, appreciate this person. So the sales manager get real-time data empowered to take decisions at the right point of time so that the team does more, sales manager earns more, and the company earns more. The fourth beneficiary is the leaders, of course. So because right now they do not have access to data, every data comes to them after a quarter or 4 months. Now they get data on that particular point of time. They can see what is working, what is not working, tweak the incentive schemes to make sure that the company is earning money against every buck.
Yeah. So one thing on a percentage basis, like what would be the increase in revenue, like by using the tool?
Okay. So, Rahul, I feel that when I look at the ROI of the system, now imagine on an average, each salesperson would spend nearly one working day every month in talking to his supervisor, his or her supervisor, saying that, hey, my incentive, what is the KPI, what is my quota, what is my achievement? There are too many to and fro's. And hence, in a 1 month, one day goes waste. Imagine for the year, if you multiply it by 12, it's 12 working days, which are half a
Yeah.
month.
Yeah.
And half a month is actually, if I divide 1 by 24, it's 4.5% of the productivity, which means each salesperson will get 4.5% time extra to sell. And
Yeah.
imagine multiplied by 5,000 or 10,000 salespeople in an organization, how much time we are talking about. So if the revenue of the company is 100 million, as I said, 4.5% is clearly they can get, because their salespeople are getting more time to sell. And secondly, I'm not even counting the motivation which salespeople will get, saying that, hey, okay, I am maybe missing my target. There's a notification which is coming saying that, hey, do more to achieve more. Yeah, that even I'm not counting. So easily 4 to 5% benefit revenue or achievement perspective can be given to the salespeople.
But so let's say the increase in revenue is, let's say, 10%, 20%. Is that enough of a justification for the management to use something like this? Or
Yeah.
like, is there a pushback? Is
Yeah, so I understand each and every enterprise actually would look for what for every penny they will put in any system. And there are so many systems available in the market, Rahul. So ours is a sales focused system. It's a revenue focused product. Now, what happens is, from an ROI perspective, if somebody is making, let's say, revenues $100 million, somebody is making 5 million more. We do not charge that much amount of money that there's a discouragement in the team to use or not use the system. And what we clearly see is there's 100x 100 times ROI which is there of the product, which clearly comes out.
So, like, what's the competitive space there, and how do you have like, how are you having an upper hand there?
Okay, so when we look at the sales performance market, when we started at Max, we really looked at the market, did our research. There were a lot of companies in the US, around 8 to 9 companies who are really doing well in the same space. It's a huge market, around $7 to $8 billion market right now. It will be $10 billion very soon. It's as CRM market is increasing, this market will increase by itself. And secondly, this sales performance being a critical factor right now may take over the CRM market in next 10 years, because everybody would want to actually empower their salespeople than just maintain a database. So that is one. From a competition perspective, a lot of companies in the US, as I said, but APAC and MENA is a market which we are right now targeting. And because of this, in APAC and MENA, if we have to look at, there are local companies who are present, of course. So there are companies who would, let's say, tend to a particular sector. For example, pharma, or one company would look at only financial services. Now, the best part, Saurabh, is when we started at Max, and the best part about our team is that all three co-founders are actually 45 years of experience and 30 years in enterprise tech. So we know where things can go wrong from experience that we gather from last many years. Now, what happens is, when you develop a product, there is a shortcut and a long cut. Shortcut is that in let's say 6 months you can have a MVP if you focus on only one sector and have a very very light tech stack, which is using Python or Laravel for that matter. Now, the problem with this approach, one which is a shorter approach, is that when you do an orbital shift as an organization to move from one industry to another industry, because a TAM for or total addressable market for one industry may not be enough for you. It is maybe 1 million or $500 million, but you would want to have a larger market share if you want to grow, let's say, in 10 years, 20 years, 25 years down the line. So a problem in doing orbital shift, changing from one industry to another, it takes 2 to 3 years just to do that orbital shift, because your code base is there for one industry, and changing that code base in those hundreds of thousands of lines, it's massively difficult, which means any orbital shift will take 2 to 3 years. And therefore, with our experience, we said that, hey, we'll not just invest 6 months, we'll invest 2 years in making a sector agnostic product and using enterprise grade technology like Java, so that the CIOs across the globe are confident that the system will not be hacked, and data related security issues which they may even think about. So we took the road less traveled, as I say, invest 2 years in the product, even to just go out in the market to sell aggressively, so that the system which we build is sector agnostic. So my orbital shift, rather than 2 to 3 years, is just 2 to 3 months. Imagine the difference in a longer run. And that is the USP which we have in the market. So right now our clients are in consumer durables, financial services, healthcare, all that. If you'll ask me to go to any geography, we are already multilingual, multi-currency enabled. So we can go to any geography, any industry, and can be live in 2 to 3 months.
What kind of clients do you have? Are we having some international clients as well right now?
So, Saurabh, right now we have clients based out of India. Of course, this year there is a clear roadmap of investing in Southeast Asia, so that we go outside, because we see huge growth in Southeast Asia. There are few inquiries which we got. but because we are not present locally in that particular geography, we could not move ahead. So clear roadmap of going out from India this year.
Varun, how do you charge the customers? Is it a one-time fee or like is it a recurring fee? Like how do you get the money from the customers?
Sure. So, Saurabh, what I have learned is that in enterprise tech business, there is a guarantee of revenue which is there when we look at a client. Now, this client is actually high lifetime value client. So this client, let's say we do a sale, and this client actually gives me money. But every year for next 10 years, if the contract duration is 10 years, generally we have a 5 to 10 year contract, by the way. So this client will pay me every year without making much effort. So imagine the lifetime value. So there is a one time fee, of course, for implementation, for integration, which we charge, but there is a recurring subscription fee per user which is there, which we charge in advance. So most of the client give me 6 monthly advance, so even I get the money before I even deliver the service. So that's how we charge.
And what kind of margins are we expecting?
So from a gross margin perspective, you can say anywhere between 80 to 85% gross margins we'll be having in this space.
And I saw this in the deck also. It's easy to integrate, but difficult to switch. How come?
So Rahul, imagine any SAP or Oracle, why they stay for 25, 30, 40 years in an organization. The best part is they integrate with each and every business system in an organization, and that is what we do. So our system actually takes data from multiple systems, be it a CRM, be it a HRMS. For financial services, can be a loan management system, any sort of system. So we take the data, we integrate with SAPs and Oracles as well. So we take the data, and the entire data lake is created at our end, and the entire transformation of data, which takes 20 days, happens in few minutes in our system only. And therefore, once we integrate via APIs and all, it really becomes difficult to let's say from a switching perspective, because the switching costs are very high. For the new partner, again, the client will have to do the entire implementation, the entire integration, and hence this becomes painful when we look at a long term. And hence, once we get in, and if the product does well, of course, the client will not go out.
Yeah, Varun, can you explain me a bit more about the typical sales cycle? How long does it take from initial discussion to converting a client and then finally onboarding?
Okay. So when we look at sales cycle, there is a proper funnel which is there. So there are leads which are getting generated. There's a demo which is happening, commercials, and then closure. So it takes anywhere from 3 to 6 months to close. Generally, the inbound leads we close within 3 months, and outbound leads are generated, which is through calls or through cold emails as well. We generally take 6 months to 8 months to close. So on an average, you can say 5 to 6 months is the average sales cycle. Now, from onboarding perspective, generally takes 3 months to onboard. The reason is there are multiple integrations to happen. And one important thing about this sales performance and incentive space is it is about money. And the system happens to be a data consuming system. And for our competitors as well, creating a data generating system is easier, which is like a CRM or HRMS. So there are 100 fields enabled, and the client punches data in each and every field. Creating a data generating system happens to be easier than data consuming system. We are data consumers, so we take data in, and the depth of the product has to be very high to make sure the incentive is correct to us, to the decimal as well. And that's why it is difficult to build a system. It takes that much amount of time, and by that time we'll be much ahead. So that's why it becomes a bigger moat as well in this particular space.
Okay. And as you mentioned that you guys are sector agnostic, you are not targeting any specific industry, but to tap into the market, are you targeting any specific industry and which is the biggest opportunity for you guys?
So we feel financial services is going to be big for us, along with that building materials. So for example, with one of the cement companies, they want to use our system to manage incentives for 10,000 dealers across the country. 10,000 dealers across the country. That is one cement company, and there are so many cement companies in the country. And similarly, cement, your tiles, your sanitary ware, and all those companies, they have a huge sales force, dealerships as well, where they would really need a system to manage entire incentives. So financial services and building materials is what we feel will be critical for us to grow.
And this is a general question. What is the propensity of like Indian businesses to adopt softwares for efficiency? I've heard that it's not so great, even when in comparison to a country like Indonesia. That's why I've seen one of your competitor target the US market, and so love to know what is the state of that market, and also why you decided to focus on the Indian market.
Yeah. So two, three things here, Rahul. One is if we compare, let's say India with US, of course, it's few years. There's a gap of few years. But if you have to look at the US market, there's huge competition. There's already 9, 10 companies who are fighting for the same customer. The probability of signing actually becomes 10% when everybody goes in. And then there's a price fight and all those things happen. Whereas in APAC, if we have to look at not even India, in APAC, the competition is pretty low, which means my probability to sign is higher. Of course, the unit price may be lower, but if I multiply it by my probability, the overall revenue comes much higher. And if I have to talk about, let's say, the propensity of adopting a digital platform in India, it is increasing year by year. And that to huge extent, you'll be surprised. When we did a survey 2 years back on 10 different keywords, so keywords were like sales performance management software, sales incentive software. You'll be surprised in India, there were only 250 hits every month, right? We did the same survey 3 months back, and the hits have been around 750 to 800. So imagine each country is actually going up the curve from a digitization perspective. And I guess COVID has taught us a lot, telling that, hey, we have to be system dependent than person dependent. So that has added huge fuel in the companies to adopt digital practices.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything else. Thank you so much for taking the time, Varun.
Thanks,
Thank
Varun.
you. Thank you, Rahul. Thanks.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. One thing that I liked was, I was hoping that he would talk about, when I asked like how would you convince the management to buy this, instead of talking about numbers, he talked about the number of hours saved per salesperson. That I thought was a better way to uh, sell.
Yeah, so frankly speaking, this could be like 20% upside for some company, can be 5% for some company, and can be a range from say, let's say 0% and to infinite. So
Yeah,
converting it into man hours is making sense and gives more visibility.
yeah. Otherwise, what did you think? I mean, I'm overall
I'm on a
pretty
Yeah, I'm
positive.
also on a positive side. Just wanted to understand a bit more on the product side and the sales cycle, because the sales cycle is typically very long when we compare it with any other product. So as you mentioned, about 3 to 6 months. So converting the client is a big part, and it's also very time consuming. So I would like to understand a bit more how can we reduce that part, and also the onboarding part. It's around 3 months. So if we can reduce something there and also the sales cycle, then I think it will be a scalable or can be deployed easily.
Yeah. And I also didn't understand really about the product taking some 2 years to develop.
Yeah, so to my understanding, like if you are developing a product for any particular industry, let's say if you're developing it for retail, so the incentive management or the sales performance management in the particular industry is different from something which is in the financial sector or let's say in the pharma sector. So they try to develop a product which is compatible with either pharma or financial or retail. So that's why like it took 2 years for them to develop a product which is sector agnostic.
Yeah, that I thought was a very risky thing. You spend so much of time to build, and what if there is?
Yeah, so these are very highly competitive markets. So over a span of 2 years, some competitor can easily capture the market. So these are few things which we need to understand, and like maybe we could have a second round of call to discuss these things.
So you will have a next call, and what would be the specific things that you would
Sure.
ask?
So I would like to like discuss more about the sales cycle plus the onboarding process, and specifically about the markets that they are targeting, what's their product roadmap, and how are they going to proceed ahead. So these are the few things which are in my mind currently, and I would love to see them in the next call.